Coming up today on Locked On Texas Tech, from 2-touchdown underdogs to a 1-point winner, the Red Raiders pull off a stunner in Ames, Iowa. And we're into it next on Locked On Texas Tech.
You are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Great to be with you again on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, always free and available on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Place a $5 bet. You're going to get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. So visit FanDuel.com to get started. With the only Chris Level, I'm Casey Cowan. Chris, great to be back with you for this reaction episode. Welcome back to the LBK after a trip to Ames, Iowa, where Texas Tech captures their biggest win of the season so far. One of the biggest wins of the Joey McGuire era, knocking off the 11th ranked team in the nation. 2-touchdown underdog, and you wind up a 1-point winner. Statistics say the game should have gone one way. Scoreboard says the game goes the other way. And that's why you play the game. Nothing happens on paper, Chris. If it did, the Red Raiders wouldn't have had a shot. But they come out somehow, some way, dig down deep, put their marbles on the table, and find a way to get it done, man. And that's all that matters at the end of the day. What a fun experience that must have been on a rainy sideline, taking it all in.
Yeah, I don't guess it really mattered where you were. If you were at that game like I was in Iowa, or if you were back home in the state of Texas, really anywhere, or even many of the states in between Iowa and Texas, it's like Forrest Gump said, it was raining. A little bit of stinging rain, a little bit of sideways rain, a little bit of rain underneath. And, yeah, that whole deal. I mean, it just was and luckily the elements stayed away until toward the end of the game, because I think there was some concern that could have changed the entire dynamic. But yeah, you mentioned it's always just about the result, man. I mean, that's just the way this thing works. People can get caught up into how you got there all you want, but at the end of the day, it's just about the result. That's all anybody's in this for. And there's a variety of different ways that you get to that result and all those things. But if you achieve it, you don't apologize for it if it wasn't a Picasso. You know, I mean, you don't, because last week I thought that in many ways, you know, statistically and otherwise, you did a lot of things that should have gotten you the result. It didn't, and guess what mattered the most? Not getting the result. But this is why we love this stuff so much, and why we're drawn to it, and why we get so frustrated and angry. Is because of the way that the last 2 weeks is a microcosm. And I guess the last 2 weeks around here were miserable for a lot of folks, even though you had a winning record and all that, but you dare to dream a little bit, and then you just get kicked around a little bit. And you know, everybody leaves you for dead, and everybody's like, yeah, whatever. Yeah. What, you know, when's basketball season start? Didn't see any of those messages after this one, but then you feel this feeling of pulling off a fun one and a difficult one, because this is the 11th ranked team in the country. They were undefeated. You're at their place. You're playing in weather. You're coming off of back-to-back losses, and you are in this thing from the get-go. And it wasn't pretty at times, but you do some things statistically that are quite bizarre, that allowed you to get to this point. And there's some good and some bad, and that's what's fun. But before I go further on it, the last thing I'll say to before we kind of start going back and forth is what I appreciated the most. There's a couple things. Is Joey's emotion after this game. He is a real, you know, invested individual that feels it. And I texted him after this thing was over, and I said, you know what I love about you the most is that you care so much, because it does bother him whenever. And I know people have said a lot, and they will continue to say a lot. But he does legitimately care about where he's at and what surrounds it and the people that he's in charge of. and all that. And for him to get kind of choked up and very emotional after that was over, I love it because they feel it, and they know, whether they're looking at it or somebody tells them whatever, they know all the things that are said. And I appreciated Zach Kitley's tweet too, to the guy that said, "I'll get a Zach Kitley tattoo on my ass if we go beat Iowa State." And then Zach Kitley tweets out a picture of himself and goes, "Hey, use this one. This is my favorite." I mean, I love that stuff, because they feel it and they care. For Tim DeRuyter's group to play a good game. So I appreciated that. And then as I'm walking out, and I'll wrap it up, as I'm walking out, I'm going up. The stadium has gotten kind of quiet. It's dark. It's still pouring rain. Walk up the tunnel after I've done my post-game interview, and I'm going to get on the bus. There's a bunch of Tech fans up there at the top of the ramp, like behind the gated part, waiting for the players and coaches to exit. And I kind of walked through there, and there I was with Jordan Brown, who had a big play at the end of this game, and we were just talking. But as I kind of sort through there, and I have somebody tap me on the shoulder, and they say, "Are you Chris Level?" And I'm thinking like, "Uh-oh, who wants to know? Who wants to know?" And he said, "Taj Brooks is my son." And I'm like, "Mr. Brooks, I am glad that you and your son and Lubbock, Texas have gotten a chance to know each other, because this is the way it's supposed to work." And for Taj to have that moment at the end of the game and ultimately win it and seal it, it was poetic.
Few moments at the end of the game.
That too. Yeah. And I appreciated him saying something to me. He listens to our show. I think I had Mason Tharp's dad come up to me and say, "Keep hope alive." He listens. You try to get Mason a big moment there at the end, but just I thought it was some pass interference on a play right there, and they kind of tangled up with Mason's legs. He would try to throw it up high. Anyways, I wanted to point some of that stuff out, because these are why we love this stuff. It's the people. It's the people and the way that it makes you feel. And it hadn't made anybody feel any good in the last couple of weeks. But, man, if you can't feel good after that one and you're looking for this to complain about or that to complain about, I simply cannot help you, or you're just going to go crazy and you can't be pleased.
Sure. Oh, yeah. And those, I'm sure that category is still out there somewhere, but I don't care where they are. Just stay out, there over yonder. I kind of hate, to hear anything related to like social media from Coach McGuire or Kitley, tweeting anything.
I got you.
Any of the lunatic fringe accounts. And I don't mean I hate that they're saying it. I just hate that has any impact whatsoever on the guys who are in the arena. I know it's impossible to not be impacted by it, but I just lament the fact that there is an impact there, because all in our own specific category, certainly not the face of a multi-million-dollar enterprise like a head coach or a quarterback or an offensive coordinator is. But Chris, I know just like I do, just from all the years in a somewhat public eye that is sports radio, you just shove the lunatic fringe in the closet. They've got their crowd, and good for them, but not something you ever want to necessarily engage in. And so, the thought that it would impact them so is regrettable, but I understand why it's the case, obviously. And I think also, as you get through a day like that, Chris, you have just a fine example as to why, again, style points and nitpicking every single play, like opening play doesn't go well. Here we go, in for a long day. Like that kind of crowd, again, you just throw them to the wind, because they're not necessarily representative, obviously, of what most Texas Tech, I think, fans are. And certainly most people that understand in any way, shape, or form the ebb and flow that is a football game, what they represent. So, to say that those categories should overlap as much as they do would not be something that I agree with. But I, again, understand, how it's sort of impossible to avoid a lot of those things. I, as far as the football was concerned, I was blown away by kind of the clutch gene that was on display from Texas Tech in so many different ways. And I guess I shouldn't be blown away anymore, because this is what they mostly do. Fort Worth was an exception to the rule that we have seen in place, in that Tech finds ways to be successful in tight margin ball games under Joey McGuire. That's been what they've done far more often than not. So maybe I shouldn't be surprised by it, but sort of was again, as you're sitting there down the stretch on the road, hostile environment against a good football team. And the fact that you're able to take what you were able to do there on that final drive, as you get the football, with just a little over 2 minutes remaining, You start it in a very frustrating way with the penalty. You got a penalty at the end of it also to make it a little bit more difficult on the goal line. So there was still some of what we've seen previously impacting Texas Tech in that moment. But that drive was one of a few that I thought were really interesting because they were 10 plays or more drives. The final one was 12. You had 3 drives on the day that required 10 or more plays. You scored on all of them, 2 TDs and a field goal. And that type of drive against the defense like Iowa State's, Chris, I almost feel like is what they love to see, because eventually we're forcing you into a mistake, or we're forcing you into a negative play or a penalty that you can't overcome. And, if you would have told me, hey, to win this game, you've got to be able to finish all these 10-plus play drives with points against that type of defense, I'd have said, all right, that doesn't seem like a great recipe for us. But just the stick-to-itiveness, I don't know, the resiliency to continue down after down after down to try and find ways to be successful. And then you do it, much less doing it in the final 2 minutes of a game where you got a chance to go out there and take it on the road. I thought that was awesome. And that's where a lot of the marbles come in. Some mental toughness, I think, has to be a part of those scenarios. And again, within the context of Iowa State's defense specifically, that's outstanding any game. But against a defense like that, I just couldn't be more impressed. First, today's episode brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Fixes tired fast. Whether you've got a long list of tasks at work or a bundle of DIY projects to tackle at home, take a 5 Hour Energy shot so you can cover everything with energy to spare. If you're like me, you've always got a lengthy list of things to get done around the house. So when you get your supplies for any project, don't forget the most essential one, a 5 Hour Energy shot. 5 Hour Energy shots give you the feeling of alertness and energy you need to get in the zone. And that's why 5 Hour Energy is the brand hardworking people like you have trusted for over 20 years to give them the alert, energized feeling they need to get through a busy and hectic day. And you always know where to find 5 Hour Energy shots, right at the cash register at nearly every convenience, drug, and grocery store nationwide. Even better, stock up on money-saving multi-packs to make sure you never run out of delicious, energizing 5 Hour Energy shots. And right now, if you go to 5hourenergy.com, that's the number 5hourenergy.com, and get some 5 Hour Energy today, you can use our promo code LOCKEDONCFB. That's LOCKEDONCFB to receive 20% off your order. This offer only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions and does not apply to subscription orders. Boost your day, boost your life, and get in the Get It Done zone by going to 5hourenergy.com today.
Because you come out in this game like gangbusters. You score the first 2 drives. I would argue that they both should have been touchdown scoring drives. I don't know what your thoughts were about the Coy Aiken pass interference call.
Bullshit.
Yeah.
To be succinct about it.
I have a hard time with that. They take 4 points off the board for you. I mean, basically, they're jousting. Coy Aiken just lets go. And then by this movement, I guess that they're suggesting he pushes off or whatever.
It's not our fault the guy didn't eat his Wheaties yesterday morning.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's very frustrating.
And then you get a PI call. What was it on the very next drive that I'm thinking?
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and that's the same official working that sideline. But bottom line is you come out and you kind of have it rolling and you're moving the ball and you got them off balance. And I think Taj was running the ball well. Barron was, I think, his first 10 of 11. You were doing a lot of things with your slot receiver, and like that's where you were kind of hurting them. And then there was some play action, this and that. You mix in some drops and this and that, and then you just go cold. And like there was a period over the second quarter where you had like 4 drives, you ran 12 plays, you threw an interception, you got sacked 3 times, you had 1 first down, and you were like -6 yards. It was a mess. Okay, have they adjusted? Why are we not giving it to Taj anymore? Are they loading the box up? What are they doing? Is it just Iowa State? But you just look completely inept, completely. And then you because I'm going to get to the point about the drive at the end, but the other really, or maybe even more impressive, now it wasn't to go win the game, but to get yourself out of this funk, they decide they're playing field position, and they decide like they've got the ball on their own 38 or your 38-yard line, give or take, or 37, and they decide to punt it, and they down you at the 2 or the 1, whatever it was. And you're like, well, I mean, that's a great punt because he like drops that little chip shot right there, and it's got a little backspin on it, perfectly executed. And you haven't been able to do anything. And you're right at the end of the third quarter, and you go 98 yards, and you're throwing it to Josh Kelly. And again, the context is this. And this is what I guess people just don't want to believe or don't care or don't grasp or whatever. This is the number one ranked defense in the Big 12 Conference. They give up 14 points a game. That's it. They come into this thing giving up as many touchdowns on the season as they had picked opposing quarterbacks off, 12-12. And thankfully, after this game is over, it's now 15 touchdowns they've given up to just 14 interceptions. So the ratio is not a perfect 1-to-1, thanks to Red Raiders. Although Barron, there's a couple throws that he'd like to have back, I'm sure, maybe even more than a few. But it was that drive. That's what, because sometimes you just never recover. You can't ever get it back. It's like, okay, they've adjusted. They're confusing. We don't have much of a running option at quarterback. They know that we're giving it to Brooks, and we're not great up front, and we're dropping the ball. We're getting sped up. We're just, whatever. Okay. So that's where it kind of started. And then I think years from now, everybody will forget. Okay, so you have the drive to go in the game. You get the ball with right around 2 minutes left, and it's that 4th and 7. You're almost dead to rights. It's that 4th and 7 pass to Josh Kelly that people will forget in time. Great throw, great catch that I thought, oh, please don't bobble. And it was just high-level execution. The play after that, or one or two after that, when he throws it to Josh Kelly on the sideline, there was some dispute on whether that was going to be a catch or not. I was right by there. Don't think he bobbled it. I know the TV folks kind of felt like he let the ball slide down his leg, whatever. Tight window. But anyway, some of those clutch things, I think that's what you're talking about. And that's what I appreciated. Statistically, Baron Morton could have been worlds better. I'd be willing to tell you that Joey McGuire and Zach Kitley will say that we didn't have great QB play in a lot of this game. But I thought the guy was going to be lost for 2 to 4 weeks last week. And for him to go in and orchestrate that and to like a sink your teeth type of win, because this is the biggest win you've had in this year, maybe one of the biggest wins that Joey's had in his tenure here. Yeah. I don't know if it eclipses Oklahoma or Texas in year one or a bowl victory over Ole Miss. I don't know, but this one is up there, if not the best. But I thought Barron, he fought. It wasn't easy. And Iowa State has a lot to do with this too, but there's a couple of deep throws that he needed to make that you ended up living to tell about it. But gutsy, clutch, figured it out, lived to tell about it. Insert phrase here, but fun stuff.
The 3 names I have listed there on the final rundown bullet point, I thought were some obvious MVPs, and there may be some others we need to add to the list. Taj Brooks doing his Taj Brooks thing, and not just with the game-sealing touchdown, but I mean the hurdle. Was it 3rd or 4th down? I guess it was 3rd down, and I don't know, 16 or something, or 12, whatever it might have been. He has a long run to save your bacon. He has a few runs on that final drive, but he does his thing overall as he typically does, and was great to watch. Getting Josh Kelly back on the radar, fantastic. Had his biggest game in several weeks. And Jacob Rodriguez, here's another submission for best game of his career. It's a good season when you have multiple weeks where you're saying, was this the best game that Jacob Rodriguez has played in his time as a Red Raider? We were saying that after the Arizona game. May have topped it this time around. I don't know, but obviously another key forced fumble. And the Red Raiders were, making some tackles for loss, which had been a sight for sore eyes in some previous weeks, and getting after the quarterback a little bit, but making enough plays to be a part of obviously what is only described as a team win. But take any of those 3 or add anybody else you want, Chris. I thought those were especially outstanding individual efforts.
Well, and that's why we talk about guys like this a lot, because they continue to show up. They are consistent, and that's the hardest part about athletics, man. And the higher level you get, the harder it is to do it good and be good all the time. But there's a common theme in your 2 last road wins.
First, today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. And NFL fans, you can start this season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Say you're watching the game, you get hit with a hunch, an instinctual calling. Well, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you're going to place your bets to keep up with everything going down in real time as you submit that slip. And right now, FanDuel is going to get you started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's right, $200 in bonus bets guaranteed with only a $5 bet out the gate at FanDuel.com.
There's a common theme in your 2 last road wins in Tucson and in Ames, and that's Jacob Rodriguez. He forced a fumble in both. He sacked the quarterback, I believe, in both. He led you in tackles in both. And this is why we talked about him the way we did all summer. Maybe your best player on defense. And now he's starting to show you some times when he really plays like it. And I thought defensively, that's what was frustrating about that second quarter back of the deal. I felt like you replayed the second quarter from last week. Defense starts to do some things. They take the ball away, and then offense just can't capitalize. You can't do anything with it. And you're just stuck in the mud while the defense is kind of doing some things and trying to give you some extra opportunities and all that. So there was that component. But, I mean, A.J. McCarty with a big play. I just thought it was nice to see Chapman Lewis back. Mo Horn, I thought was really big in this game. Because I'm telling you, Noel and Higgins, those 2 wideouts they've got, they absolutely will play in the league. Alan Lazard was there being honored at some point in the game, the former Iowa State Cyclone that now plays for the Jets. He used to give the Red Raiders fits. And Alan Lazard looks the part. And I think that the guys that they've got trotting out there now, so it was not an easy game for your secondary. But to your point, Calvin, you made Rocco Becht feel uncomfortable at times. And I'll be willing to bet you that we'll get asked a lot of the following this week. What's the deal with Barron? Why is he not healthy? He missed on the deep throw. Why are we overthinking it? I'm putting Conyers in there. Why not call a timeout, which you did try to on some of the issues with substitutions there at the end of the game, and you cost yourself a penalty. You'll be asked a variety of play calling questions. Nobody will ask a word about you giving up a touchdown right there with like little over 2 minutes when you should have. You got like 3 guys around and you just can't get home and make the tackle. And it's a guy that had caught 4 passes all season, and he just down the sideline he goes. And I thought, uh-oh. But we won't get asked at all about that, which is it's the beauty of our fan base. It's the beauty of living in Lubbock, man. It's all about the offense, I guess, isn't it? But
yeah, I guess we could just say, hey, when you screwed up, why did you screw up to any phase of the game? I don't know. I'm just not one of those fans. You won the freaking game on the road against number 11.
Yes.
The nitpick squad can go have a ball nitpicking all week long and figure out ways as to why you didn't beat number 11 on the road by 3 scores. And I'm sure they'll have a lot of fun doing that, but I won't be joining them. Just not that type of fan.
Yeah.
Never have been.
Yeah. But yeah, I hear you. But to go full circle there, I just thought that I thought there was some key things in this game where you just kind of gutted it out. And when you play these guys, it's going to be kind of ugly. That's how it was 2 years ago. I'll keep going up there as much as you want to send me. Please let there be some temperature, though, if you're going to send me. And no precip. I'll keep adding to the list. But it's going to get mucked up. It's going to be this Midwestern style of field position. But, you said this at the beginning of the show, man. To do this against Iowa State that had been giving up 14 points a game, they're giving up 130 passing yards a game. They're one of the top defenses in the country and certainly in the Big 12 statistically and otherwise. Everybody would tell you this is one of the best DCs in the country. Okay. He's proven it. Everybody's tried to hire him and he's like, man, I'm good. And they have a senior laden team. And for you to do all of what you did in the elements on the road and they're all really good. I mean, this is a really good team that was playing for the whole. I mean, a spot in the playoff essentially.
Sure.
When you add all that context, man, it makes it that much more impressive. So, yeah, I'm sorry that it wasn't as pretty, or you got frustrated about this or that. But man, you got a result, and these are hard to get, hard to achieve. And I hope you get another one this weekend.
Yeah, no doubt. Put some things back on the table for you as far as some opportunities or aspirations as you roll into the next one with Colorado coming into town. We will get to that on tomorrow's episode. And of course, you will be back to bowling. So you get that monkey off your back as far as trying to check that box that has eluded you over the last couple of weeks.
Back-to-back trips to Ames. Yeah, it's like, yeah, I mean, you got your you punch the ticket to extend your season at the very minimum. So yeah, that's I mean, Iowa State has to be. I mean, when they see anything or hear anything about Texas Tech, think about the last 3 times you've beaten these guys. I mean, because 3 years ago, we're suspending radio announcers. We're moving. You know, we're moving. Hey, everybody in this section over here, you must move over here. Remember that chaos when Sonny Cumbie's like, hey, like y'all are throwing stuff, so let's just move out. I mean, and then Garibay walks it off with, insert the Titanic music as he walked it off with a 62-yarder to end it. And then 2 years ago, you go up there in 0 degrees, and they're just kind of, trying to get some traction at the end of a year, or trying to get some momentum, and you beat them at their own game then, and then yesterday, I mean, Taj in the corner of the end zone. So when they had it all on the line, keep in mind, folks, they had never ever started in program history 8-0. That streak will continue. Thank you, or thanks to Taj Brooks, the Red Raiders, and their performance in Ames over the weekend.
No doubt, man. That was a lot of fun to take in. Enjoyed the result, and looking forward to a big one back in the LBK from Jones Stadium for what's been announced to be a 3:00 kickoff for Texas Tech and Colorado. Chris, appreciate the time as always, man. Enjoy recapping one like this anytime we can do it. So hopefully there'll be more to come this year.
Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah. Bring it on. Inject it into my veins. I'll recap, a dub like that any day of the week and twice on Sunday, which we might theoretically do. We love you all. I know it wasn't a Picasso, and there's a lot of things that you have issues with. We'll get into a lot of that this week. But, hey, man, all about the result. And it was all about the result last weekend, too, which didn't happen. But guess what? How the tables have turned.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys for being out there. One of the best ways to help us grow the show is to comment anything below. So feel free to dive on into the YouTube comments and let us know everything you hated about this win over number 11 on the road. Can't wait to hear from you. Get subscribed on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts so you never miss an episode. Thanks to the Everydayers for always being out there, and a shout out to the Matador Mobsters who were having fun celebrating that one as well. On Saturday. Hit the show notes. Check out the link there if you're interested in becoming one. Your direct line to Chris and myself with one-on-one text sent straight to your phone. For Chris, I'm Casey. Thanks for the time as always. We hope to see you back for the next round on Locked On Texas Tech.